Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Alex Cook. So what I'm going to talk about in this video is what might we see from crypto in a recession, or at the very least, a bear market. So as always in my videos, I'm going to talk about certain types of investments, and you have to make a decision for yourself on what is going to be risk appropriate for you. I can't tell who's watching this video, so I can't say what is going to be suitable for you or not. This is just intended to be for informational purposes. So last 24 hours, it's been a complete dumpster fire in basically everything. Around 5 a.m. Central Time today, we saw a massive sell-off in Bitcoin. Stock market's also been a mess too. We saw the circuit breaker hit, which is very rare, and spoiler alert, it's not good news. I want to talk about the sell-off in Bitcoin, though, because I think that's why people want to watch this video. So it looks like what happened is that a bunch of margin traders got blown out of their position. So it was forced selling. So a couple points on that. One is that crypto is still very much retail money. No, there is more institutional interest in crypto. I've been talking about that. That is part of the reason why I started taking it more seriously. But that being said, a lot of it still is retail, right? It is not the strongest hands. People are going to sell emotionally, or they're going to take too much margin. They're going to have to pay other bills, or things of that nature. They're going to have to reallocate out. It is not the strongest hands. That just straight up. Some of these people are buying just because some meme account told them to. There is no serious analysis or thought put into this, which part of the reason I want to start making these videos, because I didn't see anyone else really fill in this gap in content, so I thought I could compete in this space. All right. Second thing that I want to point out too, though, is that the markets are very thin. Now, part of it is a function of it just being retail money, but just do the math. If crypto, the total market cap is around 200 billion, plus or minus, give it a couple hours now with this volatility, it'll be something different. But it's very thin. So 200 billion, that sounds like, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, look, Procter & Gamble is worth more than that. Just one company, or Amazon is worth multiple times all of crypto. We have funds like SPY that own more assets under management than all of crypto. So it's just not that deep of a market. And I also want to talk about the depth too, because you have the holders that just put it in a cold wallet. That money, or that crypto, I should say, it's not going to show up on the bid ask. So sometimes all it really takes is a big forced liquidation to force prices down. So that's what we saw over the last 24 hours. I want to talk about what we might see going forward if we do see a recession. So I did talk about, and I'll include a link to this below, so click the description below, because believe it or not, I have other videos too where I talk about stuff besides just crypto. But I did talk about how we saw the yield curve invert last year, and how this is a bad sign, how this is historically a very strong indicator of the economy slowing down. But I want to talk about when we see gold and precious metals do well, because I think we may see some similarities. So precious metals usually do well when stocks are not doing well, and there's inflation concerns. So I'll get a bit deeper into that. So we already have an inflation protecting asset, right? That just called stocks. And the reason why gold bugs like gold so much is because they want to protect against inflation. Well, we already have something that protects against inflation, which is just stocks. But when stocks are not doing well or not expected to do well, this is when we sometimes see precious metals do well. The last example of that was 2008 to around 2010, 2011-ish. This is a time when precious metals I actually did pretty good. Now, here's the thing. The flip side is that when stocks came back, when expectations of economic growth resumed, we saw precious metals sell off. So I'll get to crypto in a second, but I do want to talk about this because I think it might be an interesting parallel. The one thing that I want to caveat is that whenever you talk about gold or precious metals, you're going to get two really emotional groups coming out. One is going to be the type that they want to buy gold no matter what. The gold bugs, that they're always permanently bullish on gold. you want to kind of tune them out a little bit because, at a certain point, it's becoming more of an emotional argument than one that's really based in economic reality. All right. The second one is one that just hates gold no matter what. Now, look, I get what they're saying in that you cannot value gold with discounted cash flow. Like, I get that. I understand that. But you also can't just walk into a jewelry store and say, hey, give me all your gold because it's not worth anything. They'll probably laugh at you and then just tell you to leave. So it's worth at least something, even if it's very difficult for us to quantify it. But the point what I'm making with this, though, is that this is a time potentially where we see precious metals do well. So I think crypto could also do well for similar reasons. Now, with extreme volatility, though, the gold market is a lot deeper. Gold futures have been around for a long time. We have gold ETFs. It is a much deeper market, whereas crypto is still, in a lot of ways, it's still very much in its infancy, which might not seem like that since it's been around for 10 years. And, we've been through a bunch of booms and busts in crypto already. But, just look at the market cap. It is still small for Wall Street standards. So I do want to talk about the macro story and why I think that crypto might, potentially do okay. I think the macro story hasn't really changed. And what do I mean by the macro story? Well, one is we're still at 100% debt to GDP. If we do go into a recession and there's some kind of fiscal stimulus, we will probably take on more debt because, well, who's going to pay for it? That usually ends in printing, right? I see that as potentially good for crypto. The second thing is, well, we see now central banks dumping more money into the system to try to mitigate the virus. I won't say which virus because YouTube will demonetize me, but, just there's a virus going around. Maybe you heard about it. So there's a virus, but anyways, central banks are doing that. I see that as bad for traditional currencies and potentially good for crypto. Long run, short run, we're going to have volatility. And then the last is more increased businesses taking blockchain technology seriously and exploring it as a way to help out their business processes, which that's why I've been looking at Chainlink and I've been looking at decentralized finance. So, I think that story hasn't really changed. Now, is it going to get choppy? Of course. By definition, like crypto is a very choppy market. I am willing to play this for, the 5 to 10 year game. I'm not a trader. I'm not here to actively trade it. My goal is to accumulate of it. Just speaking from my personal perspective, what you do, that's on you. So what I want to get at with this video is I think some of the macro, not some, I think really the macro story in general hasn't really changed with crypto, but I do think we're going to become a choppier market. So I'm just telling you what I personally have been doing. You make a decision for yourself. I personally, when it pulled back this morning, I moved some cash into Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm just speaking for myself, speaking for my own level of risk tolerance. You got to make a decision for yourself on what you want to do. I went into those because I view them as more like blue chippy. I think that they're likely going to be around for a while since they've been they've proven themselves with time. Can't English today, but. I'd be staying away from, anything that seems a bit more speculative at this point. So, crypto in a recession, is it going to get choppy? Sure. But, this is times when we've seen precious metals tend to do well. But I think crypto is different for a lot of reasons, not least of which is you can actually spend it. I can't buy stuff online with gold, whereas I can't do that with crypto. So, if you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. I'm really curious what you think about this as well, because I imagine this is going to be a controversial topic. So leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.